Hello, and welcome to The Mind of a Therapist, a podcast where we interview psychotherapists and helping professionals what they are passionate about in order to provide you with messages of encouragement and hope. The Mind of a Therapist is sponsored by Psychological Counseling Services, PCS, Healing Hearts and Transforming Lives. Please look into our intensive program at pcsintensive.com. I am Dr. Marcus Earle, the Clinical Director of PCS. Each episode will be hosted by me or another PCS therapist. Please enjoy the following discussion. Hello, I'm your host, Dr. Marcus Earle, and I'm joined by Doug Withrow today. And so, Doug, I'd like for you just to start and introduce yourself to people.
All right. I am Doug Withrow. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist at Psychological Counseling Services. I've been here for 17 years and love it. I really have cut my teeth on deeper therapy here, and it's really rewarding. Married, have 5 kids, and love what I do. I love music, and therapy is kind of the deeper emotional work that I just love being a part of.
You're very good at it. The musical part, I walked in and you're playing the guitar, and I go, well, maybe we should just do that for just have a musical interlude. So what drew you into this field? I know you had a previous career and...
Originally, my major in undergrad was marriage and family. And I was actually applying to do graduate work. In fact, one of the places was where you went to do graduate work. And decided at that time in my life that I wanted to go into the ministry. I felt that call, and that is my family background. My father was a minister. And so I went down that path for got my Master's of Divinity, and ended up being churches for about 10 years. And then I had my own kind of crisis in my life, which I needed to do a lot of personal work, had to come to grips with kind of the things that make me stumble, and also with just who am I, really who am I at my core. And so in doing my own personal work, I really realized that I had this call to therapy.
That's awesome.
And so that led me to pursue my master's in counseling and end up here.
Well, certainly many are benefiting from that choice. And I always find it interesting, our shared history in the sense that, my dad was a minister too for the first 10 years of my life, and then he became a counselor. So I got to skip the pastoral part.
You just dove right into
went right into it. No less learning, whichever path you take, but so happy you came this direction. So what are you enjoying about this work? Like, what areas do you enjoy the most, and what do you find meaningful?
Yeah, I just like doing life with people. And as a therapist, I get to walk their journey and with them, which is really what I loved about the pastoral ministry.
Right.
Is walking the journey. I didn't like all the administrative side of that and all that, running a church and all those kind of things. And in this, I get to really just spend my days walking with people in kind of their struggles and getting them getting to know themselves. And that's a big part of it, is this self-discovery piece, because I know how much that meant for me. And when you see this aha in people kind of flicker, it's just rewarding, and I'm excited for their own process. So that's really the main thing, is this self-discovery piece.
It is pretty awesome. I mean, it seems to me so many people fear self-discovery because what am I going to find, because there's so much shame. And the self-talk generally isn't great that we have about ourselves. And so it is a really special experience to sit alongside somebody and have them discover, oh, I'm a good person. I've been a good person for a long time. It's just gotten covered over,
Well, and I think what I've come to realize is that we're not just discovering. It's not like this little treasure out there that we uncover and that's who I am. Right. We're partners in our own discovery in that it's a becoming. I get some say on who I am at my core at the same time of discovering who I am at my core.
Nice.
And it's the journey, it's the adventure that I can say, man, I'm an addict, and that could be just the end of my self-discovery. Or I could say, man, yeah, I struggle with addiction, and I can be a person of integrity, and I can be a person of compassion and empathy too. And that really starts, this co-creator kind of mentality with who I am.
Yeah, I think you're talking about it. The other question I had is like, what's your style of doing therapy? And I think you're in a sense talking about that. Could you go a little bit further with that?
Yeah, yes. I'm very relational style, where I'm conversational. I reflect back what I'm hearing from somebody, and it becomes kind of a mirror for people. And I can be really empathic and gentle. And also in that relationship, like any relationship, I can also be direct and confrontational and say, man, I think you're ignoring this. And let's look at some of those blind spots. I think the relational aspect of it helps people feel safe when I am more confrontational. Right. That they don't feel like I'm adversarial, that they feel like, man, I'm joining, man, this guy, I can trust this guy. And part of that style is that I kind of bring myself into the room and say, yeah, the reason I can see this is because I see it in me, and I've kind of been down that path. So that's how I approach.
That's great, because self-disclosure is debated in our field. And there's certainly a large belief you don't.
Uh-huh.
And yet, I think what you just shared is certainly what I found is that by self-disclosing, it connects us. It helps us to be more human. It makes the experience more humane, if you will, in connecting.
Well, and I think it's a delusion to think we don't bring ourselves.
Right.
To think that I'm not somehow in the room with a client. We all, every therapist I know from kind of the Freudian model, they are present in the room. And so I'd rather be just open and honest about that than pretend it's not happening.
We all pretend quite a lot throughout our lives, so it is kind of refreshing, isn't it, to just be real moments. And I think that's one of the special qualities about the way you do therapy, and certainly what I experience a lot here is let's just strip that away, and let's be real, let's be honest, because you're here, because you got a lot going on. And we do get what it is to have a lot going on. Each of us do. From the younger to the older of us, we've already been through quite a lot.
Yeah.
And let's join around those types of things.
And been through a lot and continue to go through.
That is true.
A lot. I mean, It's just the nature of life. We don't, at least my experience has been, we don't arrive.
Yeah, I'm almost giving that up, but not quite yet. Even at 63, I'm still, there's got to be that moment. I so much want that moment.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
My mom, before she passed away, I was having this conversation with her, and she said, the older I get, the farther I feel from who I want to become.
Yeah.
And she was in her mid-80s at the time, and I thought, Mom, that sounds depressing. And she goes, no, not at all. That's the adventure. That's the excitement of life. And I was like, wow, that's awesome.
I knew your mom. She's a lovely human being, and not surprised that you had that kind of wisdom.
Yeah.
So that's really special.
It took me back because I thought in going into my 60s that, I'd have it figured out.
Right. Yeah. I'm a little ahead of you.
Yeah.
Don't give up before me on this question.
Right.
What are you kind of hoping for yourself professionally, like in your own growth professionally? Like, what do you think, 5 years, maybe 10 years from now, how you seeing yourself or hoping you develop?
Well, first, kind of on the 1,000-foot view.
Yeah.
I want to continue to develop. I mean, I'm committed to continuing to learn, continuing to grow. Just like with life, I haven't arrived. I know as a therapist, I haven't arrived. And I want to stay curious about modalities. I want to stay curious about the things that I already do that make them better. I think I want to do some more work in understanding trauma work and just some modalities. I think I do some effective trauma work, but I think there's some modalities that would expand me in that a little bit better. I also want to, kind of going into the 60s, like I was saying, I want to start being a resource for younger therapists.
Nice.
And, you start thinking about this kind of what does the future hold and what can I leave with people? And not that I've arrived, but that I can share that experience with somebody and I can be supportive in their own self-discovery.
Yeah.
And so that's starting kind of on the edge of what I'm looking at now.
Well, as you know, it was an exciting day for me when you agreed to become a supervisor. It was great because you're wonderful at sitting with people and that developing, the younger crowd as they're learning how to do this it's an amazing opportunity for them to be able to sit with you. So,
yeah. And so learning what's it look like to be a mentor? I mean, some of the same skills as kind of doing therapy, but it goes beyond that, I think. And so I'm eager to go down that path.
Well, I would, from everything I hear, you're already on that path. And
oh, thank you.
I got a mentorship award at one point in time. I go, hadn't really thought all that through. So it kind of caught me off guard. I go, people view you that way. It's kind of this kind of not knowing for me, like where I was in a moment over a period of time. So more learning because I think I have a tendency to dismiss more than embrace.
And I think just busy. Yeah. The busyness of life, not recognize what you're doing. I don't realize I'm trying to get through a crisis, and then people are observing how I do that.
Right.
And I think you've been a mentor. Like you say, you received an award, but you've been a mentor to me, which has been really powerful. And not some just sitting in the office and doing the supervision kind of stuff, but some is just kind of observing how you do therapy, how you do life, how you do crisis, how you engage in people's lives, and that's powerful. And so I've learned from that, and hopefully I reflect some of that.
Thank you. That's really kind. And what I think about is how we do that for one another. I've watched you step back and be thoughtful. I go, this would be a good time to be thoughtful, Marcus. There's times where I'm a little overwhelmed. I want to just go forward, or I'm annoyed, and let's get this over with. And he's thinking this through. I probably should pay attention to that. So, been very helpful to me. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Just in general, how would you describe your experience here at PCS?
It has been a wonderful growth opportunity to be with people who are passionate about helping people. And it's been challenging at times. It's been encouraging. It's because none of us here are perfect, and part of the ethos or the culture is not about doing it perfect, but it's about walking with each other through it. And we can make mistakes, and we can talk about it, and we staff, and we can go into each other's offices and say, man, this has been really tough. And so when any one of us is meeting with a client individually, they're actually getting 25 plus therapists as resources.
Right. That's a good point. That's true.
Because, I can walk into anybody's office, from the person who's been here 1 year to the person who's been here 35 years. And I know I'm going to gain something from them in staffing it. The 1 year people have been taught things in school that I never learned.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the 35-year, 40-year people are people who have had experiences that I haven't had. And in that community, then we give people an opportunity to grow with a lot of kind of behind the scenes going on.
Yeah.
The other aspect of it is the intensive.
Mm.
And I love balancing kind of my individual clients, that I do that work and kind of see people grow over time. In the intensive, you just see remarkable change in a week or two of work. And that is just immediate gratification. And, to see people who are willing and eager and courageous enough to dive into understanding themselves and growing themselves as human beings. So I get that balance.
That truly is special. And I do love as you're talking about our group here, the comfort, knowing that we can just sit and talk through something. So we're not doing it on our own. And then also the challenge that brings, because I'm going to talk it through. I'm going to get some feedback, and I've got to learn from the feedback. So that's even true for me often, which is fantastic.
Well, and I can be, let's just do it. This is how I know to do it. I'm just going to do this. And then somebody goes, well, maybe we should change. And I'm like, oh, don't change. I don't want to learn to change. And then I got to sit with it and think this is probably good. We have the evolution of the intensive with the years I've been here, adding pieces, tweaking pieces, has been remarkable. And I do tell clients, intensive clients, that when they're filling out kind of their assessments, evaluation, that kind of stuff, I say, we read this stuff and we do make changes. We just made a change in a group, 2 weeks ago, in how we added a group and shifted the timing of some groups. We don't feel like we've arrived.
Right.
And so that's exciting and also frustrating for me personally at times, but I know it pushes me to grow.
Yes. Definitely frustrating. I'm with you. Is there anything that you want to add before we wrap up?
No, I guess that I just really appreciate kind of the therapeutic process. In the past, it may have been in religious communities with a priest or a rabbi, or it may be a shaman, or in some all through culture, there have been people who helped people walk through. And in our culture, in addition to the religious communities, the therapeutic community, we have learned so much about how the brain works. And to be part of that is exciting.
Indeed,
That's what I would add.
Thank you, Doug. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. Thanks for taking the time to ask me.
You bet.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Please press the subscribe button, as well as rating and providing a review of our podcast. This helps others to connect with what you have been hearing. If you have any questions, please contact us at themindofatherapist@gmail.com. These questions will be kept anonymous. I want to thank Eric Price for the wonderful music you hear in this podcast. Additionally, this podcast was created to provide accurate and authoritative information on the subject matter. Although we are interviewing licensed therapists, they are not your therapist. This podcast is not intended to serve as direct medical advice and should not be used as a substitute for direct professional help. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, publisher, guest, or PCS are rendering legal, medical, or clinical professional information. If you need a professional, we encourage you to find one. Visit Psychology Today to find a licensed clinician near you.